Yeah, good, thank you very much. First up, just a check on Michael Smith and Josh Windass. Are they okay for this weekend?
Yeah, both players are fine. Yeah, for this weekend. Yeah, both are okay.
And did Jack Hunt make it kind of through in the week after his illness okay?
Yeah. Jack Hunt, came through as well after the game and training of the last few days. So that's been good as well for him as well.
Yeah, that's a real positive, isn't it, if you can have that competition back at right wing back?
Yeah, because obviously we've missed that, and as I said, with Hunty's illness and the virus, it sort of really wiped him out for sort of 10, 12 days. So we had to really build him back up. So for him to get the 90 minutes the other night was excellent.
Mark McGuinness, have you had any kind of updates on his prognosis and how long he's going to be likely to be out for?
Yeah, Mark's just picked up a strain. Thigh strain, and we've had to like sort of give him the last 7 to 10 days to settle down, which he's done. Now he's just really sort of building him up over the next few weeks, and hopefully he'll respond well to the treatment, and then we can get back into it. As I said, it's been a strain, so we just got to manage it, and with the strain and that, the first things foremost, Adam, is just letting it settle down.
Is it still a couple of weeks away for him, possibly longer?
Yes, yeah, at least that, yeah.
And any other knocks that we don't know about?
None apart from the two longer term ones. At the moment, it should be sort of a relative clean bill of health, really.
Good stuff. Irrespective of the competition, really, should the team you selected against Burton in the week have won the game?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. Listen, I'd take nothing away from Burton, please. I'm not suggesting that we've got any given right to go and win the game. You've got to go and earn it. But what we didn't do, we didn't play to our full potential against Burton. And what happens is when you don't play to your full potential, you leave yourselves open to getting a result that you don't want. And that's how it turned out against Burton. I was really pleased that after about 20 minutes we got into the game, and it's understandable because we had a lot of players who hadn't played a lot of minutes. And we looked to give a lot of minutes to the game, and I just thought after 20 minutes we got back into the game, pulled it back to 2-2, and I was expecting us to be more on the front foot second half. Obviously we give the goal and the penalty away, and they then sort of had something to hold on to for the remainder of the game. And even though we huffed and puffed, I didn't think we did enough to really get in and win the game to take it into the final round of the cup.
How do you explain that kind of sloppy start to it? Because if you are going to achieve things this week, those standards have to be high every minute of every game, don't they?
Yeah, and I said, for me, Adam, the only thing really what came out of the game for me was a lot of our players what didn't have the minutes in the legs, got some sufficient minutes in the legs against a Burton side what had continuity from the weekend's game. He sort of stayed with more or less just the team, and he jigged 1 or 2 rounds, but they're fully up to speed. So what we did was, when we look at, we had 5 or 6 there that probably could have done with minutes, and we played them together. So the test was good for us because it was a game at speed, which is what we needed. And as I said, it took us about 20 minutes into it. So I understand probably the slow start and how the players grew into the game. But what we didn't do was we didn't sustain that in terms of getting back into the game. We started slow second half, and then by the time we got up to speed, Burton had something to hold on to, and saw the game out.
I'm thinking in particular to the kind of midfield area, which is hugely competitive. But do you expect to see more from players when they get a chance, like in the week? Because trying to get into the team this year is going to be really tough for some.
Good, yeah, Adam, I like it again. Yeah, good, and that's what we want, because I want the fact that for players to play in there's 2 aspects. Number 1 is to perform consistently well in training and doing well, but also when you get in the team, it's about getting in the team and holding on to your jersey and wanting to perform week in, week out. So there's 2 aspects of it, and if we can fulfill both aspects, it means that we've got a team being ultra competitive with each other in training, but ultra being consistent in the performances on a Saturday to keep hold and sustain and keep the jersey, and which is what we want. And that's what I'm trying to build at the football club. And you've seen elements of that this season, but what we want, Adam, most importantly of all, is a competitive team and a team that's showing good consistency. And we're still working towards that, but that's what we want here, and that's what we expect.
So from that perspective, did what you saw in the week fall short of what you'd hoped for?
Yes, yeah.
One player that did come out with some credit afterwards was Malik Wilkes, got the goal clearly. Is that just a little taster of what you're hoping he can bring to Sheffield Wednesday?
Yeah, and there's more to come from him. We're not putting any pressure on him because we know that in order to get to where he needs to get to, it's going to be over a course of time. I suppose what a lot of people have not seen is since his arrival from Hull here, we've had to do a lot of work behind the scenes. So probably a lot of our supporters and that have not seen much of him on the pitch, but that's only because the amount of volume we've been putting him into training, to give him match minutes on top of that, I don't think you see the best of him because you got to blow off the cobweb, so to speak. What we did see in the week from him was moments of brilliance, and what he brings to us, and he gives us a different edge, a different dynamic to the team when he plays, and I think we've seen that, which was good to see. I thought he took his goal very, very well, but I thought the use of the ball and how he got it up to him and how he put Burton on the back foot was a small glimpse of what he can bring us. He's in a better frame of mind and physically in a better position, so he's more nearer to potentially starting games than he was, say, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. But we continue to still work on him. Obviously, we've got a game this weekend, and we've got another full week to work in training next week, with it being a one-game week.
There continues to be kind of plenty of chatter about playing out from the back and some frustrations in how that's going. Do you feel that approach brings more positives to the team than negatives?
Absolutely, because you can call it playing out from the back, you can call it however you want to call it. What we've got to look at is in terms of what the opposition's giving us, in terms of what we're doing. As I said, if the opposition sits deep, are you going to go direct? Because they've got players behind the ball. If the opposition come on, there may be space and pockets for us to play in. We've scored goals this season with 4 goals, ball up to the front, knock down, lay back, a runner, scored a goal, 4 sequence pass. We scored our 3rd goal at Morecambe, where it was 20 plus passes, and scored a goal. So hopefully what we've seen is there is a directness to our play, but also there's parts of us that we take what the opposition's giving us, space and pockets for us to operate in, then we'll gladly do that. So this season, Adam, we've scored different goals, different cases, so there's an argument with both cases really in terms of it, but we have scored goals both ways.
So will it always kind of be a feature of how you want to play? And if so, does that mean that your defenders, your keeper, just need to up their standards and ensure that they're on it at all times, just to try and cut out those errors?
Every single day, Adam, they've got to be on it. Every single day. There's not a moment where we choose to be on it or not. Every single day, they've got to be on it. So for the message for me to everyone is that every day we don't get to choose. Where we don't feel we are the finished article. We're still learning, we're still developing, we're still trying to be ultra competitive in games to win matches. That will never ever go away. So in terms of us trying to pick and choose games, never. We're always trying to aspire to try and be the best version of ourselves, and that's never been any different, and that message has been always loud and clear, been at the football club. And as I said to you, we've had new players come in into the shape system. There's new shapes and systems this season, and players are expected to operate in them. And there's still 1 or 2 developing and gaining understanding with them. But as long as we see that in them and there's that improvement, then that can only be a good thing.
Some thoughts on Wycombe? Have you been bending the ear of David Stockdale this week?
Yeah, no, Stockers obviously, that was his sort of his playground last season in terms of where he was at. And but this season, there's probably a lot of things changed at Wycombe that he's not been in there. So we've just got to plan and prepare. What we know with Wycombe coming tomorrow is they're a really experienced team, led by a very, very experienced manager. Let's remember that, they were the playoff finalists last season and the season before, so they've been consistently competing at the top end. And it's going to be a real tough game tomorrow against a real good team. And he's added some wonderful quality to his team, Gareth, this season again. Some real astute business and recruitment. So it's a game, again, it's a different game to what we played against Ipswich on Saturday. But it's another game that we've got to be ready for. And it's a different set of tactics that we've got to be ready for in terms of it. But make no mistake, these are a good team that's going to be in at the S6 tomorrow.
They've not started the season exactly how they wanted. They have got a few players absent. I've seen there's been plenty of chatter at their end about that. Is this potentially a decent time to play them in the season?
It's a time to play them. I wouldn't put the time decent on it. I don't by any stretch any means. What I will just say is it's the time to play them, and that's how it is. And the reason why it is because the kickoff stage is going to be 3 o'clock tomorrow. So in terms of what you want to put on it, all we just know from a professional angle is that there's a very, very good team coming in, and in order for us to get anything from it, we're going to have to be the best version of ourselves.
I imagine, particularly in the way that the last few home games have gone with opposition teams getting a lead, knowing how Wycombe have played and how they like to disrupt, and I think time wasting has come up a few times in the past. You just don't want to give them any kind of advantage tomorrow, do you?
Yeah, and what you got to remember is that it's all part and parcel of the rules of the game. So, if you deem it time wasting or anything like that, it's all part and parcel of the game. And yes, frustrations can grow when that happens, but it's all part and parcel of the game. And they're rules that have not just been thought up yesterday and applying today. They've been there for years and years to come. So like I said, my term is to switch off from that and try and more focus on us in terms of that. Teams will come here and teams will want to stop us from doing what we want to do as we want to stop teams. But the big focus will be in terms of making sure that we show the best version of ourselves and we get a good performance. And we try and create as many problems as we can for them to deal with, as well as stopping them with the problems that they have.
Brilliant. Thanks, Darren. Good luck tomorrow.
Cheers, Ad. Thank you.
You alright, Darren? How you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Joe.
Good stuff. Just before I go on to the upcoming game, has there been anything said about the incidents at Ipswich? I know the club said they were doing an investigation. Obviously, there'll be things from the FA side as well. Has anything been said about that?
No, we just had the report in just to state that, it was. I don't think it was so much as a warning, but just a report in just from the referee in how the game went and the potential of the game being abandoned through the safety of the players on the pitch, and it was his duty to bring that to attention. So we had the report with that, and we're grateful at the time that no more objects came down on the pitch, because I think it would have been catastrophic for us as a football club to be labelled with that term when it wasn't that at all. So that was a report that we've seen, but there's been no further sort of action taken with it. And as I said, the game would have been abandoned just for the safety of the players on the pitch.
So are you expecting that to be the end of that, or do you think there might be still some things to come?
No, I expect it to be the end of it. And in terms of that, and because I know that as a fan base and as a football club, that's not us. So it's just one of those moments where, yeah, frustration's probably got the better of one or two, but that's not us as a football club. Because as I said, to come up to Hillsborough and play football is one of the best footballing grounds that you could ever wish to play in, and it will continue to be that way.
Brilliant. Just going on to the game then, Wycombe, I know you've touched on it a little bit there with Adam, but they've had a tough start. They lost some players, obviously David Stockdale coming to Wednesday. Do you think that they will be any different? You know, they have had a bit of a turnover in players, or do you still expect them to be the same sort of team to play against?
Yeah, they've got the similar values that they've always had. What I've looked at them and saw that they've added a bit of quality in areas that still possess those problems in terms of going forward. When you look at the calibre of players that they've brought in, they're all calibre of players that have played at the level above, if not higher. So they know their way around. They're very experienced in terms of what they do, and they're very familiar with how they go about their business, and sort of stepping into the arena tomorrow won't faze them. They know what they're about. They've got a real experienced manager. And again, like I said to you, in terms of what I've seen with them thus far this season, we know that we've got to be well rehearsed and prepared to perform at the very best, because it's going to take a high level performance by us if we are to come out the game with anything, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at the sort of the league season. By the time it finishes, more often than not, 2 points a game is enough to get you up. When's you there or thereabouts at the moment? Do you think that's going to be the case this season? That, you know, if you can get 2 points a game between now and the end, that it'll be enough for what you're aiming for?
Let's have a look, Joe. I mean, obviously, the facts and the law of averages have shown consistently over the seasons that that's where the points tally would marry up to that, and that's why, you know, that stat is out there. What we've just got to do for us is continue to perform and be ultra competitive and trying to gain as many points as we can with the ones that are available for the game. We just got to consistently continue to do that, and if it does work out to be that, then great. What I will say is, remember last season there was I think 7 teams what had amassed over 80 odd points in League One. That is a phenomenal stat, and it shows the levels where League One was at, and we was one of the clubs that did that, amassed over 80 points, and it probably still didn't get us to where we wanted to get to. So it shows the level what's in the league, the competition what's in the teams, and the consistency of the teams, really. And I think that's been the big word, really, because when you're amassing over 80 odd points, there has to be a level of consistency to your game, and we had over 7 teams did it last season. So it gives you a little benchmark where League One's come over the last few seasons, and I envisage no different again this season.
Just looking at the side, obviously you've spoken about the goals that you've conceded, how disappointed you've been with the nature of them. Can you give us a little bit of insight into your thought process when it comes to, you know, you've seen those goals, you've seen how they've gone in, you've reviewed the game, but you know, when it comes to changing formation, potentially changing the players in there, can you give us a little bit of insight into how your brain works when it comes to that?
Yeah, so in terms of changing a formation, the formation will always be changed is based on what I believe in terms of winning the game. That's first and foremost, and then within the formation, it's looking at personnel that can apply themselves in the right manner to see that formation be effective. And that's the thought process. In terms of a formation change, it might not be predominantly with the same 11 players that played the previous week. It might be a different 11, or it could still be the same 11 if they're adaptable within that shape. And that's always been the thought process with it. Another thought process has always been, when there's a knee-jerk reaction to see a player that supposedly is playing out of position, that's already been taken care of, Joe, in terms of the planning and preparation. I suppose yourself and the supporters just see it on the day, but there's been a process in terms of that player being used to playing in that position to do a job at that time. So there's a lot of thought that goes into it, a lot of pre-planning, a lot of thought, a lot of discussions, training, video analysis, all those kind of things that go into it with before we adopt anything like that.
Obviously, you've got to focus on the pitch stuff, but there's a lot of contracts coming up at the end of this season. Are you looking into any of that at the moment, or is that something that you're waiting sort of a little bit further down the line? Obviously, some of the guys are a little bit more important than others in terms of, you know, they could leave and go overseas and things like that. But is it something that you're sort of being proactive about with it when it comes to the guys who are coming up?
Yeah, but for me, Joe, 24 hours in football is a long time. So the end of the season seems it feels ages away for me, really. So in terms of that, the focus has got to be the here and now. I think if we look at the here and now, which is the games that are coming up, and trying to amass as many points, I think the long-term objectives in terms of where those contracts are really takes care of itself. Yes, we're aware of them, but also at the same time is these fixtures and the games that comes up wait for no contract decisions maybe coming up at the end of the season. So therefore, our focus is certainly on the games here now, whilst being aware of the contractual situations later on.
Fair enough. I want to touch on, you've got posters up in the changing rooms. I noticed that they go with you on away games as well. You put them up in the change room, in the away dressing room. What's the sort of the aim of those? You know, that you've got buzzwords that are there. Like, what are you hoping to achieve by having those up?
Consistent reminders that who we are, what we are, part of the cultural environment that you're trying to drive here on a consistent basis. And I always think you need reminders for that to happen. You need that consistent message and that consistent reminders, really. So that's probably the basis and the purposes of him, really, in terms of keeping that momentum, keeping that version of who we are and what we are. We're in an industry, in a game where at a split second things happen, whether they go for you or against you. But it's always important to revert back to your values. And it's a consistent reminder of who we are and what we're trying to achieve here. And I think that's probably the purpose behind it, for the players, the staff, on a consistent day in, day out basis.
Just lastly for me, you had the team photo this week. Is there anyone in there that's particularly difficult to wrangle and get taking a serious picture?
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, because they were all standing behind me. So I was on the front row. So, you know, I suppose when the pictures come out, I'll get to see the one or two culprits with it. But as far as I could see in front of me, which there weren't many in front of me, none at all actually, Joe. It was a well taken team photo.
Brilliant. Cheers, Darren. All the best.
Cheers. Thanks, Joe.
Hi, Darren. How are you?
All right, Dom. Yeah, good. Thank you.
Good stuff. On Dennis Dederin, how is he progressing?
Very good, really good. Him and Akin are doing excellent. While we want them both on the pitch, it's kind of good in essence that they're both working together with the medical department. Both are in the gym, so they're both spurred on by each other, which is great really for them. But both of them are healing really well and looking really good in terms of their rehab.
I know that you don't like to put timescales on when players might be back, but I mean, when do you think at the moment Dennis could be available for you?
Not sure, Dom, because the reason why I don't want to put a timescale on it is because he could come back quicker than that, or in the build up to it, in his rehab work, he might have a little setback and it prolongs it. So that's why I don't really want to put a timescale on it. But what I will say to you, Dom, is that both players are doing really well at the moment. It's really good. So we'll wait and see.
Dennis will be a bit like a new signing for you then when he gets back.
Both of them. We know with Dennis, you know the drive and the flair he brings in terms of what he's about. And I suppose we're all kind of gutted in a way because he's been scoring. He scored a couple of spectacular goals, and added that different dynamic to our midfield. And for me, Akin, that central defender, left-footed on that left-hand side, unbelievable, real great power, got lovely passing him, solid, reliable, dependable, robust, no nonsense. And we've missed that one as well. So both of them would have been key figures with us. But as I said to you, you know, that's football. It's a contact sport, and we've lost them. But certainly both of them will be back. Certainly, there's still a lot of the football to be left in the season for both of them, and we'll get them back when the time's right.
There was no George Byers in the squad on Tuesday. Did you just rest him? How is he? Is it all good?
Yeah, no, George was left out the squad and that because he took a little knock on top of his foot, which was a bruising, so we just took him out the squad, and as more of a precaution.
Is he fit for tomorrow?
Hope so, Dom.
Is he trained?
Hope so, Dom.
How important is he to this side? He's already scored, I think, 3 goals so far this season.
No, obviously George has been excellent really for us in terms of, you said about the 3 goals he's scored, but just his all-round play for the team, in and out possession of the ball, and in terms of what he's been really, really good for us, George, in the continuity of our play and how we've been in possession of the ball and out possession of the ball, and he keeps it moving real nice, clean and swift for us, but also at the same time he's popped up with some wonderful goals, which has been really good. So yeah, he's been really good.
Is George someone that you are looking to try and tie down to a new contract?
George is George is a contract with us, and George is still with us without me knowing the contract situation. But if I'm right with George, he's still got this and possibly next year. I'm not sure, Dom. I'd be sort of second guessing it really, but certainly George is somebody that we brought here and he's doing what we wanted him to do here, which is he's fit now, he's well. One of the big things with George was before he'd arrived here, when you look at his sort of his career, he was always hampered and by little knocks and little strains, and that what you see is a real fully fit, robust George Byers, but also a technically really good, gifted player, and he's been really, really good for us. But I still think with George that there's more to come, and he's showing that.
Yeah, you finished 4th last season, largely playing 3-5-2 from October onwards, pretty much. So, what would you say to fans who are maybe questioning or don't understand why you may be wanting to play a back 4 in some matches and play different formations this season, when you sort of consistently went with 3-5-2 from October onwards last year?
What I would say that is last year it was more forced upon us really because of the huge injury concerns we had to our central defenders, and I'm happy to play a 3. Absolutely not a problem, which you've seen, but also at the same time I'm happy to play a 4, and I just think you've got to be adaptable, and I think already this season we have been adaptable. Obviously it's down to the individuals to see that adaptability, because I won't say it, but we have been adaptable already this season, sort of after the 9 games already this season, and both systems have worked because we've got results from them. So we'll continue to do that, but if I think that over the course of the season I need to work with a 3, I'll happily work with a 3. If I think over the course of the season that we need to go into a 4 as well, I'll happily work with a 4. But what I will say is after 9 games, we have deployed both systems already.
When everyone is fit, what do you think with the players that you've got? What do you think is the best system and way of for you to approach games? What do you think is the best formation with the players that you have?
The players' availability will dictate that, and the opposition that we come up against will dictate that. What we have to be, Dom, is versatile for both systems really, and I think that's what it is really, because I'm not reinventing the wheel. All the teams in the division are doing it at the moment, so we're no different. I suppose the only reason we're just focusing on us, but all teams are doing it at the moment, and I think you just got to be adaptable really. in terms of how you go about the game.
You've scored 5 goals from set pieces this season. I mean, how pleasing is that for you?
Good. It's a department that we wanted to improve on. Last season, when we look at the stats and data, I think we was in the top 3 or top 4 for scoring goals from set plays, and we want to continue that. And I think it's important that if we're going to have a successful campaign, to have had 9 games in and scored 5 goals from set plays, it's something that we've got to continue doing. We've got to get them into double figures, which is what we want to do in order to keep that, because it plays a massive part in your goals for column in terms of that this season. So it's really, really important that we continue to do that. It's important that you continue to try and work on keep getting them clean sheets as well. You know, that's another department where we're looking to work on, amongst others, in terms of trying to improve that. Which if you're improving significantly in them departments, Dom, as you know, then it means that you're moving in the right direction.
That's great. Thanks a lot, Darren.
Top man, Dom. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.